I want to thank my colleagues, the Speaker, the Chair of Ways and Means, the Chair of Labor, for moving us forward with the fiscal year 2021-22 budget. This bill will provide $2.1 billion for the Excluded Workers Fund. That means that New Yorkers who did not qualify for federal assistance, like unemployment benefits during the pandemic, including those with or without immigrant status, non-documented, will be eligible for retroactive cash payments. This pandemic highlighted social inequities, lack of access to health care, ineligibility for relief, and job insecurity left immigrants especially vulnerable. At one point, it was reported that half of New York City's immigrant population was unemployed because of the pandemic. There are estimated 350,000 undocumented workers in New York City and more than 500,000 undocumented individuals. This budget will close the gap for those people that were left behind by the last administration. Now, Mr. Speaker, I heard a lot of debates around this issue where there were those who were concerned about fraud and many who felt those concerned were racist against immigrants. Many activists of whom held hunger strikes and marched for the Excluded Workers Fund. And the reality is anything Black, anything brown, and Asian has been on the attack because of its race. This issue is close to my heart because I come from an immigrant family. This country was founded on the ideals of the American dream. It is built on generations of hard work by immigrants like you and me, who dreamed of achieving successes our parents could have only imagined. For the past 2 weeks, I have been mourning the death of my mother, who I just buried this past Easter weekend. My mother was an immigrant who immigrated to the United States from Haiti, came into this country in 1970, who eventually became an American citizen. She put her kids to college, bought a house, and remained debt-free. Someone who didn't speak English much, someone who didn't make much, but made much out of almost nothing. She used her sewing skills to start a small business, tailoring wedding attire and other garments on the side for extra income. My mother was a labor union delegate for the Hotel Trade Council, fighting for labor and work, for labor's rights and workers' rights, for benefits, better wages, better benefits, while working as a room attendant, so she could support me and my siblings and make the community and the world around her better. People that she's not related to, her colleagues and their families better. The work was not glamorous, but my mother used it as a mechanism to lift up the people around her and introduce to the labor force. She was an entrepreneur. She saved every dollar that she earned, and with those savings, she helped other women and children find refuge. We don't often glamorize these people that keep our state moving. The hotel workers like my mother, home care workers, the nurses, transit workers, restaurant workers, grocery store employees. But they are all often the unsung heroes of many people's lives. And I represent a large Black immigrant community who have been waiting for their documentation to be approved, but systematically have been denied over and over and been waiting in the pipelines for years. But you see, my mother helped those undocumented immigrants. She financed hundreds and hundreds of immigrants. She gave many of them their first jobs by introduction to families who needed babysitting and nannies. She introduced them to the labor force. She introduced them to opportunities where they were eventually sponsored. She worked with immigration offices to get our whole entire family into this country, many of whom that were not even family members. She used her house as a collateral. She was a micro lender, charging no interest helping and basically forgiving every micro-lending penny she gave to many people. My mother devoted her life to helping immigrant family and children, like the excluded workers, who will be helping by passing this budget today. Immigrants working in New York City are 20% more likely than their native-born counterparts to have been dislocated in the current crisis. Immigrants represent 63% of all restaurant and hotel workers, 65% of construction workers, 72% of those working in personal services, and 77% of private transport workers are immigrants. Immigrants are also numerous in healthcare and social service work. These are the very people we applauded every night at 7 p.m. through the pandemic. Now we must thank them by providing them access to the same benefits that other workers receive. This resource will take away from the long lines we experience at food pantries, unable to bear the weight of the need. Providing resources to our most vulnerable population will make us all better off. She even had my mother, after dying, people came to her house crying because even in her sick bed, she was helping, again, a lot of the undocumented immigrants. She was a warrior. She was our Harriet Tubman in the community, which is why over 1,000 people came to pay her respect this past weekend. And if I wasn't mourning my beloved mother, Marie-André Bichotte, I too would have participated in the hunger strike, just as I did in 2015 for immigrants. Because my immigrant brothers and sisters are not criminals, they are hardworking members of our lives, of our nation. They help our country move. Just like many other immigrants who came into this country, the Italians, the Irish, the Polish, the Russians, where this country had no issue. These immigrants are not criminals. These immigrants are from Haiti, Jamaica, Guyana, Trinidad, Grenada, Dominican Republic, Honduras, El Salvador, Mexico, and on, because immigrant lives matter. Excluded workers matter. I feel that we are in many ways carrying my mother's legacy by passing this budget, which is why I'm so happy that we'll be continuing to uplift the Black experience, our immigrant experience in the Caribbean community by renaming the Newkirk train station to Little Haiti Newkirk train station in the heart of the New York City designated Little Haiti Cultural and Business District, which happened in 2018. Yes, people need to feel the Black experience. People need to feel the immigrant values, the Black immigrant, the Caribbean immigrant values in my community, the excluded workers' values. I welcome everyone to celebrate and embrace Chinatown, Little Italy, Little Pakistan, and embrace Little Haiti, to remember that these immigrants who also help America continue to help America be the great America. I am proud of the fund put into finally a step forward to fully funding our education and higher education, addressing housing crisis, both rental and mortgage and money in our health care industry, our MWBEs, and funding our excluded workers, and raising the personal income and corporate tax. Yes, I agree that there's room for improvement and we could do more. But today, Mama, loi ça c'est pour vous, c'est pour mémoire, pour tout ça on fait pour communauté, pour tout ça on fait pour tout le monde. Not toujours changer. And that's why I will be voting in the affirmative in the name of my Shiro, my warrior, my Harriet Tubman, love of my life, my mother, Marie-André Bichotte. Mr. Speaker, I will vote in the affirmative. Thank you.